Hello and welcome back, friends. Welcome back to another video today. It's Cameron Brown with Mysville Media, and as you can see, we're back with another episode today of our podcast. Today we have a very special guest, one that I work with pretty often on a regular basis. She is my editor, my videographer, and ace assistant, Dani Romero. Dani, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, I'm Dani. I am a photographer, editor, and now new second shooter, and I am a creative, and I am dipping my toes into this new field, and I'm really excited.
Very cool, very cool. And so as you mentioned, when you were kind of giving your intro and everything like that, you are fairly new to this, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So that, in a nutshell, is pretty much what our episode is about today. I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about being a new full-time freelancer or creative, or just kind of journeying into this space in general. This is, I feel like, a pretty controversial topic and something that gets really, really like blown out of proportion in a lot of people's head, because it's a scary thing. Like, you're going from, either working at another job or doing something that feels a little bit more secure and locked into your routine, to then all of a sudden just being completely on your own and everything is in your control. So we're going to dive a little bit into some pain points today, maybe some realities of things. We'll answer some questions from some people that we got online, and yeah, hop into it that way. So first things first, Dani, talk to me about like your initial anxieties when you first were jumping into this. What was the first thing that was popping into your head?
One of the biggest things was the jump from being a regular employee, working still a creative job, mm-hmm. but a more structured job where, it's like you drive to wherever you're going and you have a schedule for yourself, and then jumping off the deep end into being a full-time freelance creative, mm-hmm. And having to basically make your own schedule, not just working, but also where you're working from, things like equipment, also like taxes, money, things like that. So
yes, definitely.
I feel like that it was just a very big life switch, and one that I'm very grateful for, one that I think is very exciting, but that I think not many people know the actual details about.
Okay, cool. So as you were talking about, there's definitely a whole lot being thrown in there. One thing that is like a major switch when you're going from being, I guess, kind of like 9 to 5 and then hopping into freelancing is like a lot of that stuff is structured into a 9 to 5 for you. Your taxes are usually taken care of and taken out of in your paycheck and everything. It's already set with like where you're working, who you're working for, what hours you're working for. All that stuff is kind of already structured in there for you. And as you heard from what Dani said, when you're making that switch over to being a freelancer, or just someone who is, again, an entrepreneur completely on their own, all of that stuff then falls on you. So there's a lot of adjustments that you've got to make going forward and all that stuff. And with those adjustments is going to be, adaptations to your schedule. There's going to be changes in the workflow that you do on a day-to-day basis. All of it is super important. So you need to just be patient with yourself and give yourself time as you're trying to learn and work through these new things. On that subject and everything, Dani, what were some of the first things that you noticed were like, ooh, these are like major problems that I'm having, like adjusting to this new lifestyle and like kind of getting in the groove with these things? And then what did you do to kind of work on solutions or fix those things?
So I'm definitely a perfectionist, and
definitely, we know this for a fact. In a good way though, in a good way. Very good perfectionist.
I struggled with having a work-life balance.
Okay.
Because I was the only one really in charge of my schedule, so I was just working as much as I could, mm-hmm. Including not taking breaks. And I think it's a different, it's different when you factor in working from home all the time, because you have to create your own boundaries, mm-hmm. With yourself and also in your home, because your home should also be your safe space. So separating work from home and also my life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think I struggled with that the most. I think solutions that helped me was really just organizing myself, starting mm-hmm. from, okay, like I'm going to wake up at this point and have some time for myself before I start work, so mm-hmm. that I can have some bit of myself back, and then I'm going to start work and work from these hours to this hour, have a lunch break, and then work until these hours to this hour. And then also having a really good support system. So like having you as my boss, and then having like my friends and everyone who is also a creative, who's also encouraged me to create those boundaries for myself.
Cool, very cool. As Dani mentioned and everything, like it is super important to strike a balance, and like that's something that will always be changing as you continue to develop and grow as a creative, and that's something that I myself am continue to work on. People at higher levels than me are continuing to work on. People at lower levels just starting out. It's always going to be a part of that process. So always focus on your balance if you can. Learn to have a boundary with your work and everything versus, you know, your actual personal life and everything. It's really easy, as she mentioned, when you're working from home to kind of merge the two ecosystems together, because again, I won't show you a whole tour of my house. Obviously, we're in our little living room right here because air conditioning and it's like 100 degrees outside. But this is obviously, you know, my home office and everything like that. My office is literally right next door in the next room. There's not even a door that's dividing the two of them. So it's really easy for me to get up and while I'm walking past my computer say, oh, okay, like let me just send off this email real fast, or let me hop on here and like just do these quick edits or something for this client, and then just get myself ahead for the next day. And if it's after hours or if it's during a time where I'm just not supposed to be doing that, again, you have to hone in on that balance and kind of set those boundaries for yourself so that you're having a healthy life balance with everything. Cool beans. Anything else to add on that?
I feel like another thing as a fairly new editor and shooter is just equipment. So I struggled with my equipment that I have, which was much more geared towards small edits and dance video edits. But I feel like what I've started working through is, or like solutions that I found is through you know, and like your knowledge and, you know, like getting new hard drives and then eventually getting new equipment, new laptops, new cameras. So I feel like having someone in the field who knows what they're talking about really, really helps.
Definitely. So to expand on that topic and everything, having somebody in that field or having a resource in the field where you can learn about all of the tools and equipment that you're going to need to put yourself in the best position for success is super important. It doesn't have to be a person who is the resource and stuff. Obviously, I'm a big resource for Dani and everything, but you can use YouTube, you can use Google, anywhere that you can get free information and kind of educate yourself on those things is fair game for this type of stuff. The reason that's so important is because, again, you want to try and give yourself the best position possible for when you're starting out and trying to grow in your space, right? Again, this is your bread and butter, guys. So if I'm a starting photographer and videographer, one of the first things that I did when I was kind of kicking myself off and starting up my business was all the money that I made immediately got reinvested into equipment. So that's a new laptop, that's making sure I had all the hard drives that I needed so I could edit my projects, that's getting the lenses, the cameras, the memory cards, everything that I needed so that I could be the best version of myself to keep elevating and moving forward quickly. So yeah, I think that's a good bite on that. Anything else?
I think those were my main big struggles at the beginning. And I mean, I'm still in the beginning.
Yeah, that's all good.
I feel like I'm starting, because of those things, I'm starting to have better footing.
Yeah, definitely. Dani's making tremendous progress. She has been making leaps and bounds and stuff, and she's already got a lot of the concrete things in place, touching base on things outside of reinvesting in yourself for new gear and putting yourself in the best position. You can do things that are also free of charge. So that's making sure that you're organized with yourself and making sure that you are timely and, you know, you're doing good time management with your projects and everything like that. Making sure that when you go and talk to clients, you've gone over all the details of whatever service or project that you're going to pitch to them. So that way you feel confident walking into that meeting as opposed to someone who's a little bit more timid or you're not sure of what you're talking about. Again, guys, anything that is like a maybe in your head of like, maybe I should do this, or I feel like this might make me better. Go ahead and do it. Put the extra foot forward and give yourself that best opportunity to shine, okay? Any other subjects on what it's like being a brand new full-time shooter? Any questions that you have for me or anything? You can pop it on the spot if you want to. I'll do my best.
You mentioned like YouTube, you mentioned other like free resources, but what really helped you? Because I feel like that's like a little, like, you know, people say that, but it's like, what does that mean? You know? Like,
okay. So what does like YouTube mean, or like what does being self-taught mean, or whatever?
Like, because I feel like there's so much on the internet right now where, you know, you can find like a 2-minute Adobe video on like how to do this, how to do that, which has been really helpful to me. But like, how did you know what was, I guess, the most important? Because there's so many different things that you can learn. So like, how did you structure that?
Okay,
like,
all right,
you know?
we can attack that question. So trying to kind of zero in on what is the most important information for you to learn for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how I approached that when I was first starting out, because I agree with you, there is a whole bunch on the internet. When somebody says, oh, you can teach yourself through YouTube University or, Google Academy or, all that stuff, whatever. It is really easy to be overwhelmed by information because you literally have like the world at your fingertips. So when I was first starting out, how I was able to discern what information was most important to me was, again, just process and elimination and just trying things. I wasn't afraid to try things and implement new techniques, test things out on different shoots and figure out what worked for me and what didn't work, what I liked and what I didn't like. A lot of it was trial and error, because what you'll find is that as you're sifting through this information, you're learning what's going to work for you in terms of building your style, building your brand, and building the way that you shoot for your workflow. Obviously, if I am a real estate photographer and I'm watching videos on how to edit weddings and, stuff that's more relevant to other long form pieces of content or things that aren't related to real estate work, none of that stuff is going to be beneficial to me. So I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to change my focus over to how to take HDR pictures and how to do, exposure composites and all that fun stuff, because that's going to be more relevant information for me and what I do for my clients. Diving back into just general information and everything like that, I think that there is a basis that everybody needs to start with for learning and everything. So again, that's learning how to work your camera, learning the basics of shutter speed, aperture, exposure, all that fun stuff. Like, that's all well and good for getting your basis down and kind of creating a solid ground zero with it. But then again, as you continue to build up and as you continue to find different niches that are specific for your likes or specific for your needs and your clients and everything, that's ultimately what's going to guide you in terms of determining what information is relevant and what information is not. Another tip for if you've got some extra change in your pocket, or maybe you've accrued some revenue from your services and now it's time to reinvest in stuff, invest in courses, invest in things that are relevant to your skill set. I've invested in 2 or 3 courses at this point. When I started out, I invested in one, and one carried me into being a full-time shooter itself. And then after that, I kind of expanded on that. Between YouTube, Google, and the courses and all that stuff combined, I was able to scale forward and do that stuff. And then once I reached a certain point where I felt like I wanted to branch into something else, that's when I dove back in again, and I was searching for information, found another course, found some more YouTube videos, etc., etc., etc. So for this next topic, we are going to hop into how to branch into different fields as a new freelancer or creative / content creator, and essentially how to find out what it is that you like to do. This was a big hurdle for me when I was first starting, and I feel like it's something that's kind of tough for everyone, because you have all these different fields that you want to get into, like, oh man, I love music videos, or like, it'd be so cool to be able to, shoot commercials for like a sports brand or whatever. But a lot of times it seems like almost unattainable, right? Because you're looking at these big brands and these huge music artists and these crazy, stuff that you've never done before, and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. So let's jump into that topic and everything. Dani, have you ever felt that way? And if so, like, what are some spaces or areas that you feel like you want to dive into that seems like, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin right now?
I feel like how you were saying, I think honestly the things that we see in media, like music videos, things that are just like really both like expressions of creativity, but also just seeing like the technique behind it and how masterful the person behind the camera must have been. I think those things like music videos, high-end like TV shows, like just looking at the cinematography and thinking like, oh my God, like that's so beautiful. How can I do something even similar to that? Even just like wedding videos. I think things that evoke feeling kind of leave you wondering like, oh, okay, how can I do that?
How do I make?
Yes, how do I make
to create?
that?
Okay,
Yes.
cool. So there's a couple different things for when you want to try and branch into different fields, especially if it's something that you've never done before. The first one is obviously going back to what we were talking about previously, and that's just doing your research. When I first started out shooting specifically family shoots and weddings, I believe, and portraits. Stuff like headshots and everything like that. Headshots was the very first thing that I started out with. And when I was trying to figure out how to shoot a headshot, I literally was just going down the list of like, okay, like what lens do I need when I'm shooting headshots, or what lenses work for headshots? What type of like composition do I need to have when I'm shooting with my camera and stuff? What are the settings that my camera is typically supposed to be on? Is there any lights that I'm supposed to be using? Can you do it with natural light versus like, you know, external lights like speed lights or anything like that? I just dove in and I was educating myself as much as possible in that field. So even though it wasn't something that I had shot before, I was just researching, just filling my brain with as much knowledge as I could. Then once I felt like I had gotten a pretty good basis and I was able to, you know, basically recite it backwards on how to shoot a headshot or how to shoot a wedding or something, that's when you start trying to go out and you find people who can be practice subjects, or you offer a shoot for free. That's always a good way to do it. A lot of times people are not going to turn down anything for free. You don't tell them that, hey, like, I shoot all this stuff for free and like I just want to give you blah blah. Like, let them know, hey, like, you know, I shoot weddings or I shoot headshots and stuff. I want to get something down for my portfolio, so for this first one, you know, let me hook you up. Let me just give you a discount or a free headshot or something. It's on me, and if you like it, then we can look at doing another schedule or something like that. But that's a good way to kind of get your foot in the door and give yourself a chance to start shooting this type of material with no backup portfolio before that. Another thing would just be doing the research and, you know, doing practice shoots and everything like that on people and everything leading up to doing like an actual paid one. A lot of that is contributing into something that I think a lot of people don't think about, and that's your confidence. Build your confidence when you're getting up to these things, and don't be afraid to try new things. A lot of when you're branching into any new field, no matter what it is always going to be trying new things. So you have to get comfortable in that unknown. If you're not comfortable with that unknown, then you're never going to be able to step up to a client and say, hey, I shoot headshots and I charge $500 per session, or, you know, I shoot weddings and I do XYZ for my packages or something. So make sure that you're paying attention and building your confidence along the way, so that way you feel nice and good when you're talking to your clients. So another good method for when you're trying to branch into new fields as a creative is don't be afraid to network with people. That's super, super huge. You need to be able to communicate with people and make those connections, because you never know who's going to have a connection with someone who may be an in for getting you into that field. One in specific that I can reference as of late, I've really been wanting to do a lot of roofing videos and stuff like that. But here in Virginia, I have no idea who I can contact for any type of roofing company or come and shoot a free video for them or photos or whatever. No contacts at all. But my girlfriend's little sister's boyfriend owns a very successful roofing company in Pennsylvania. His name is Dom Scartelli. You can check out Scartelli Roofing. I'm pretty sure that's his company name. Sorry, Dom, if I butchered it. But Dom Scartelli, you can check out Scartelli Roofing in Pennsylvania if you guys need any type of new roof for your building, house, whatever. He does it all. He's amazing. But yeah, that right there in and of itself is an example of having a close connection in your family or in your friend group or just in your general network that you can use to say, hey, Dom, I've been interested in shooting some roofing videos. Would you mind if I came out with you on a job one day, flew the drone up in the air, and then just got some shots of you doing what you do? Dom is a great guy. Obviously, you're already connected through family and friends, so that's an easy in right there. And then boom, you've got some portfolio material that then you can just turn into a video or a photo and then pitch to another client, and you're good to go. So another good example for how you can get into that stuff. Again, just stay versatile with it, guys. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about what are some of the actual realities versus realities that you see on like social media and all that stuff. This is a fun one because when I first started out, and I don't know if you can attest to this or anything like that, but when I first started out, a lot of times when I hop on Instagram, I saw like all these cool like travel photos and like all these videographers with these like giant like cinema rigs, and like just like every videographer or photographer's dream is like portrayed on Instagram. And so immediately when I was like, oh my God, like if I get to be a full-time creative, I'm traveling the world, I'm going to Bali, like I'm doing backflips off of bridges, like all this stuff that like was kind of true, but kind of also shading and covering a lot of the undercover details and everything. Did you kind of have that same experience?
Yeah, 100%. I was like, I can travel the world, and like also I think you get a little bit overwhelmed by everyone flexing like their equipment, just having it all. And I'm like, okay, but what is actually real?
Yeah, or like you mentioned, you were like, oh, like I love wedding films. They're so pretty to look at, all this stuff. So you're seeing like these gorgeous films with like these slow-mo moments where the bride is like absolutely stunning, like straight out of a Disney movie or something. And you're like, if I just get this camera, or if I just like learn this one skill or something, I'm going to be able to shoot that movie, or I'm going to be able to create that piece of content, right? Okay, so talk to him, Dani, because you are brand new in this space. You have just stepped into this, so you are dealing with a lot of the realities that are kind of hidden underneath that underbelly and everything.
Yeah.
Talk to him about like social media, Instagram, I guess like the glam portrayal of it versus what it's actually like when you're kind of stepping into space. What are some of the things that you can expect when you're like a brand new creative or freelancer?
I feel like there is so much underneath the surface. So everything is portrayed very perfectly, and it's so pretty, and you see everyone's glamorized lives, whether that's like someone who is a content creator, a videographer, an editor, all of the above, an influencer.
Yeah.
But you really start to see that, I think, one, there's so much underneath the surface, and there's so much that you have to do that people just don't even show, you know, at all. You don't even see any of it.
Right.
But also, too, I think it also makes me realize that you kind of have to glamorize your own life. Because if you don't, you know, like...
Big facts.
You
Big
know,
facts.
like...
Yeah.
Because I also think, one, it really helps to bring in clients. To just be like, oh, like, just portray, like, the fun aspects of your job, or like the really cool aspects of your job, or all the things that you're doing. But also, I think you have to do it for your own headspace, to not compare yourself to other people, either to be like, either to realize both that, oh, like, this isn't real, but also to like, I can glamorize my own life, like, sure, why not?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Kind of going off what you said there and everything, it is important to post yourself on social media and show all of the highs and all that stuff. And one thing that I've learned as a content creator, elevating myself and moving forward through this space, it's important to show all the lows. If you can, try and find a balance of showing, you know, your most glamorous moments, your best shots, your most prominent pictures that you love, all that stuff. And then also show, like, you know, I'm working behind the scenes. It's an editing day. I got like 6 projects on my queue. This is me maintaining my camera. I'm cleaning a sensor or something like that. Showcasing that kind of speaks a different message, because the ones that we were talking about previously, where it's all these like super glamorous, like awesome pictures and videos, is all great, but then that's all you're saying to your audience. This is my life, and that's it, you know? Having the balance between the two shows the ins and the outs. It shows that you're willing to put in the work behind the scenes, that you do put in the work behind the scenes. And it also shows that when you put in the work, this is what happens, you know, like this is what is a result of all of my blood, sweat, and tears when I'm back at home editing for 8 hours or something like that. So it's super important to be able to show both of them. But yeah, the first thing that I realized when I was starting out as a creator and everything was you have to want to do what you're doing, you know, and this goes for any field, not just creators. Once you get into kind of owning all of those elements that we talked about, your schedule, your time, your money, your taxes, all that stuff that's in an entrepreneur or a creative or a freelancer's life, it's very important that you sit down with yourself and you have kind of like a mental check-in. And so you need to ask yourself, is this something that I love? Is this what I like to do? If the answer is yes, green light, go for it, because it's going to take all of you and some more on days to be able to keep moving forward with it. That's just the way that this stuff works. If it's not something that you love to do, I would highly advise considering something different. And the only reason being is because when push comes to shove, and when you're in a spot where it's not in the glamorous portions of the thing, so you're not on that bridge in Bali jumping, doing a backflip into a lake, or you're not like getting that absolutely beautiful, stunning wedding shot, and you're having to do all the behind the scenes work, the editing, the lucking the equipment up 3 flights of stairs, which Dani is well aware of, dragging a giant wagon around with all that stuff, suffering in the heat, etc., etc., etc. That stuff is going to weigh down on you, and it's going to, I don't want to say break you because I don't want to sound super dramatic, but essentially it's going to make you kind of change your mindset a little bit and affect your psyche. And when you're in this type of stuff, you have to have a concrete mindset. You have to be just driven, you have to be straightforward, and you have to know what you want out of it. So for this next part, we are going to dive into, kind of piggybacking off of our last topic, we're going to dive into pros and cons of being a freelancer. Like, do you even want to do this type of thing? Because there are a lot of pros, but with a lot of pros, there are a lot of cons that come with it as well. So we're going to kick it off with Dani. We're going to let her kind of dive into it. And then, as she has mentioned oh so kindly before, I will give my seasoned opinion and all that stuff on the matter. So Dani, what are some of the pros and cons when you first jumped into this? What was like something that immediately jumped out? You're like, oh my God, I love this. And then what was something that was like, holy shit, I'm gonna just absolutely bleh.
Right. Well, I feel like I should mention that I was an editor at a dance studio for 2 years, also a videographer. So I didn't come completely unseasoned, but it was a very big jump from being, from working, you know, less hours and also just like being an employee to then jumping into editing for 8 hours a day. And
Sorry about that.
but yeah, that's
Sorry about that.
and also like the lifestyle that comes with it, because I didn't realize that, oh yeah, this is gonna be a big change in many ways.
Yes.
But I feel like there are lots of pros, and for me it was worth it to jump from being a regular employee to being a freelance creative.
Cool. So start with the pros. What were some of like the, if you could list like maybe 3 or like more or whatever, you know, what were some of the first pros that were like, wow, this is great?
So for the pros, I feel like there are lots of pros. For me, I love learning, so I feel like I'm learning something new every day and I'm challenging myself.
Yes.
And I felt stagnant where I was, and I felt like if I stayed here, which I had the opportunity to, then I wouldn't learn anything. And I feel like now I'm just learning so much. I'm like a sponge. You're like Mrs. Puff. Like it's.
I like that analogy. That's good.
Like SpongeBob, and I feel like for me, like that in itself is worth it. But then also I get to work from home. Some days I don't even have to go outside.
Which for introverts, major pro.
Really great with the air conditioning.
Yep.
And you know, I just send off little emails to Cam, and I'm like, this is my progress for this and this. And I like that. I love that I'm able to work from home and also create my own space, and manage my own space. So even though it is intimidating at first with making your own schedule and things like that, the pro is that you get to make your own schedule. You know, you get to, yes, I'm free, exactly. And also I think just being a creative and stimulating my mind with how am I going to tackle this project? How am I going to create this video from these clips? You know, like what kind of music am I going to add? And creating the story yourself, I love that. So for me, like that's a big pro too, that I get to be a full-time creative. Like that in itself is enough for all the stress, blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, no, that's literally excellent. I'm totally on par with those and everything. One of the biggest pros that you will get out of being a freelancer and kind of owning everything that you do, doing your own thing, carving your own path, is the freedom that comes with it. Because obviously if you're pulling all the strings and you're doing all the work, you're checking off all the boxes, you also get all the benefits that come along with each one of those boxes and everything. So I personally, I'm like right on board with Dani. I enjoy being able to make my own schedule. I enjoy being able to call when I want to take a day off or when I want to schedule something for work. I enjoy being able to work from home and, you know, hop in my living room and like I can take a quick like 10-minute nap real quick if my head is hurting or something. I can get up and like go make a snack or something if I'm hungry or something like that. All the little things that kind of culminate and add up, you realize are like, wow, I have so much more freedom and so much more ability to do the things that I want to do, as opposed to being, you know, wrapped under another person's direction or another person's, you know, management or something like that. So yeah, the freedom that comes with it is, to me, priceless. Like it's absolutely awesome. And I know Dani's been living it up over there and everything. She's in her training phase still. We've got her learning a couple different skill sets and all that stuff. But the other thing that she was talking about, I agree with as well, is that if you're someone who is looking to continue to grow yourself, and that's something that calls to you, also, being a freelancer is definitely something that you should consider and feel confident in approaching, because you will be challenged and you will learn new things on a daily basis, always. It may not always represent itself in the manner of like a new skill or something like that. It may come in a lesson that you learned about, oh, when I'm communicating with clients, I should structure an email this way instead of this way, because that goes off a little bit better for when they're receiving it. It may come in the manner of, oh, when I'm ordering supplies, I know I should, you know, back my order up like a week in advance if I'm ordering something for a shoot, to give myself enough time to get it there and test it out and all that stuff. tons of little challenges that will come your way and make you a better person, so long as you're open to receiving them and learning from them. So yeah, lots of cool pros, lots of cool things that you learn along the way and all that stuff. Let's talk about the cons. What were some of the immediate cons that popped into your head or popped into your everyday life?
I feel like for me, maybe the biggest or the most prominent
Safe
con.
space here. You can say whatever you want. I can see the gears turning in there.
For me, it's the unknown.
Okay.
Which
That's
I feel
a prominent one, too.
Yeah, it's a prominent one. So from going from a job where I could recite it front to back, upside down, to then being in a completely new atmosphere, for me, because I'm a perfectionist, I want to know everything. So for me, it's like I love the learning process, but I also struggle with the fact that, oh, I don't know this. You know, so for me, it's the unknown is both a pro and a con. But I think it's more so, I can still spin it to being more so of a pro because I'm learning and I'm growing. So I think that the unknown, just in general, from being from completely different lifestyle changes, is a big one, because sometimes you don't even know which questions to ask. 2 is just managing your time. So it comes with, I love the freedom, but then that also means that you have to be the one managing yourself, which is both also a pro and a con.
Double-edged sword right there.
Yeah.
That's always a fun one to figure out for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Because then there's sometimes when I time a project and I'm like, I can do this, and then it's 2 a.m. and I'm like, I'm crying.
Yep. Real easy to get caught up in that one. I feel like anybody who's watching that can definitely attest to that. We've all had that moment where we have, allotted a certain amount of time for something and we think, 4 hours is enough, 2 hours is enough, I can knock it out, no problem. And then you look up and it's like 8 hours later and all of a sudden the sun's down. When you started, the sun was out and birds were chirping and all that stuff. Very fun how that just transposes like that naturally, right?
Yes.
Very cool. But yeah, the other one that I kind of wanted to touch back on, like you were saying, the unknown, is interesting because you were talking about the unknown of I enjoy the challenge of learning a new skill set, but I also am kind of frazzled by it sometimes because I'm a perfectionist and I want to be able to lock down my skill sets and lock down what I'm doing that day and just know, be concrete with it. When you first said it, actually, I interpreted the unknown as being I don't know if I'm going to be able to how am I going to get clients? How do I guarantee that stuff is going to come in and all that stuff? Because again, that was my unknown. That was the biggest hurdle for me when I was starting, was okay, as a freelancer starting out and making that jump, I feel like I was standing on the ledge and doing everything I could to try and make sure I had some type of cushion to jump onto. And then even after that, it still was okay, so how do I keep building that cushion? How am I going to get the next one? How do I get you fear this unknown. The solution that I can offer to it that kind of, I guess, eliminated that is just stop focusing on it. If you're putting all your focus on your fear of not being able to succeed, then your fear is probably going to end up culminating and coming into existence. What you need to put your focus on instead is how you're going to succeed and what you're doing to succeed. Actively put your focus and your energy into the daily practices that you should be doing for your business or for yourself. So learning how to organize yourself better, learning how to network with people, learning how to go out and, acquire clients, and how to shoot a video better, how to get all the settings down so that next time you're on set, you can do things that much faster or that much more efficient. That's where all of your energy and your focus should be going. Because once you do those things, and once you focus on all of those things, you're automatically going to improve yourself as a shooter, as an entrepreneur, as a freelancer, overall as a person. And then what that brings naturally is success. It's automatically going to happen. You're automatically going to be able to just lock in all the skill sets. You're automatically going to be able to feel that much more confident, and you'll see it'll gradually just come into the picture. So that was my biggest thing, was shifting my focus onto the things that were appropriate for myself, as opposed to focusing so heavily on all the negative things. Touching, I guess, one last part on that, it's not to say ignore those possibilities and those things and everything, because they are still reality. It is still 100% a reality that at the end of this month, me and Dani could go broke. That'd be it. All the money would go out the window and we're done. We're out on the street and we're starving, just like that. Is that going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. But it is a reality that could happen. But the way that we're counteracting that and the way that we're making sure that we are on top of our stuff, we focus on what we need to do. She does her editing, she does her shooting, she practices the stuff that I send to her. I do all the things that I need to do on my end, editing, shooting, client talking, acquisition, emails, organization, all that stuff. And we just keep pushing forward, and we keep our eyes focused on what's ahead of us instead of what could be disaster behind us and everything. So yeah, that's touching on that. Any more cons that were popping into your head?
I don't know, but baby, can you think of any? You've seen me feral.
We have a guest star. I was gonna say we have a guest star slightly outside of the camera. They are monitoring the cameras for us and everything, making sure our time codes and all that good. Sus, would you like to step in and say hello?
Oh, step in.
You can if you want, or you can stay over there as a disembodied voice.
I will be a little voice in the background.
Okay, fair enough. Anything you'd like to add as a con that you've observed, maybe from watching Dani or anything like that, or that you yourself have maybe experienced?
I don't know if it's a con per se, but I think it's honestly a pro. But Dani was having trouble asking for help in the beginning, feeling like lost. Yeah, I think it is a big challenge to step into a whole new field and like have so much to learn. So I think that can be a challenge, but in the end it's been good because now they know how to ask for help. Sometimes.
I feel like I'm always asking Cam questions now.
Yeah.
That was a big hurdle for me to like ask for help, because also like admitting that you need help was hard for me, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. And then now I'm like, hey Cam, it's 11 p.m. The color grade is really messed up.
Right.
Please help me.
Yeah, no, exactly. That definitely. I remember we had an initial call where it was just kind of checking in on her and seeing how she was doing, how she was feeling, acclimating, all that fun stuff. And it was very tense. Very tense. It's very tense. Even had my sis Kate on there and everything, but it was still very tense. I could feel a lot of apprehension, and this wasn't even like in person. I could feel a lot of apprehension through the webcam and everything. And that's just because, again, when you're starting out and all that stuff, like, this is all unknown territory. It's all new material and new things that you're learning literally on a daily basis. So a lot of it can be very intimidating and very overwhelming. So Dani, obviously, we talked it out and all that stuff. I reassured her and I was like, look, man, like, chill out. You got this. Like, it's all good. Believe in yourself. Trust the skill sets. We're going to be patient. We're going to be kind. We're going to be gentle. And we're going to work all this out and get you where you need to be. But Dani, from your perspective, as someone who was sitting in that hot seat and who was sweating bullets and all that stuff, what was your internal thought process and feelings going through that, and how do you feel like you were able to overcome that? You can include, obviously, talking to me, but what were some things that you worked on yourself that was able to kind of help you get past that?
I feel like I had to be honest with myself as a creative, but also just as a person. Like, you know, like, what do I need help on? Which is something that I would see a project and I'd be like, I can tackle this, I got this, I can do this in 5 hours. And then it'd be like 8 hours later and I'd be like stuck on something that I didn't know how to do. I already looked at it on YouTube, and YouTube is a very helpful resource.
Yes,
but
yes it is.
When it's something specific or really niche and YouTube does not have the solutions, then it was really, you know, it's great having you as a resource, because I can just reach out to you and
Okay, but having confidence is good though. Having confidence is good. It's good that she's willing to approach. That's one of the things that I like about Dani, and I feel like everyone should kind of take a note in that. Is, again, touching on what we talked about earlier. Don't be afraid to be confident. Don't be afraid to try new things, and, you know, step forward, put your best foot forward, even if you're not 100% sure about it. That's what's going to help you progress forward in that space. But as you were saying, continue going.
I think honestly the biggest hurdle that I had to overcome is just asking for help, because I feel like being a creative or just being a freelancer or just being a perfectionist, you just want to have all the knowledge, and I also feel like maybe in our field expressing that you don't know something is kind of frowned upon, or just being as a creative in general. So I think getting used to the idea that, oh, it's okay that I don't know this, you know. So I feel like that was just being gentle with myself, I think, really helped, and being honest, because like you said, like, there are a lot of things that you have to overcome when you're just managing yourself and you're creative. So the number one thing is you have to be also honest and gentle with yourself and kind to yourself, you know, and patient with yourself as you're learning new skills, because if not, you can love the field as much as you want, but if you're just tearing yourself up and working so many hours without any breaks, it'll just fall apart.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I agree with everything that you were saying right there. Like, especially the 2 points of, number one, not being afraid to admit that you don't know something. And then number 2, not being afraid to ask for help and all that stuff. It ties into some of the things that we were touching on earlier. Guys, do not be afraid to ask for help if you don't know anything or anything like that. That goes hand in hand with things like networking and everything. Because the sooner that you are just honest about it and that you're like, yo, like, I may not be the best at this, or I have no idea how to do this or anything like that, people naturally want to help you. So again, when you're networking and you're connecting with people and making new friendships and partners and all that stuff and everything like that, if you don't know something and if you're just transparent with everyone, chances are there's someone that you're going to connect with who will be willing to connect you with another person who does know how you, or does know what you want to do, or does know how to do what you want to do and everything. So it's super important to be honest and transparent in that space. Even if you're not directly connecting with like someone who can help you, like a mentor or something like that. I've been honest with clients when they've asked me, hey, have you shot this before? Or hey, can you do this before? And I've been 100% transparent. I've been like, look, that's not my area of expertise. I do have this experience in it, or I do know this person who may be better. And a lot of times that ends up working out a lot better than if you just lie and you're like, yeah, I got this, man. I can figure this out. Because I guarantee if you show up on site and try to film or shoot whatever it is that they're doing and you're not giving them the result, it's probably going to go south. Versus if you're just honest with them and transparent, clients and people appreciate that a lot more, and you'll usually get a lot more value out of it for everyone in the end if you just do that. So we put out these questions on our social media as well. I got a couple responses from our oh so loyal and wonderful friend Katya. For those of you who don't know Katya is borderline TikTok famous, so you should probably check her out. She does all sorts of cool readings and all that stuff on her TikTok. So do you know her TikTok handle?
It is Katya Centeno with maybe an underscore somewhere in there.
Yeah, Katya, wherever you are, thanks for answering our stuff and giving us some more material to talk about. We will make sure to give you a shout out in the video and everything. But we put out on here the questions for beginning shooters and all that stuff, like what were some of the pain points, what were some of the things you guys wanted to know. This goes for creatives, you know, all that fun stuff. So Katya responded with literally 4 things. She said, what was the toughest part about becoming a creator and how did you navigate that? I feel like we kind of touched on that, but you want to re-sum it up and everything since you were just jumping into this space, and I'll hop on to the next one.
Okay. So I feel like the toughest things to navigate was just one, being honest with yourself, setting your own schedules, being organized. Well, that wasn't difficult, but it's one of the things that you need to have, being organized. And also just maintaining boundaries with yourself while also you have to maintain those boundaries with yourself so that you can keep your creative ideas flowing and also like have your creative inspiration, because if you're always working, you're not going to have the creative ideas as much, you know? So I feel like those are pretty big challenges, but I feel like, you know, they've been overcame.
They've been overcame, and we're overcoming.
We're overcoming.
Yeah, we're always in a student position. We're always learning. We're always growing and stuff like that, right? Okay, so summing that up for Katya real quick and everything. Just touching back on those main points that we talked about in the video. We'll link the timestamps and everything. The next question that she asked was, what editing softwares do you recommend that are cheap-ish / free? I can tackle this one. So obviously, if you've got a Mac, you can start with iMovie. That's what I started with when I was first doing school presentations and all that stuff. iMovie is surprisingly more flexible than what you think it is. It does obviously have its limits because, again, it is free and it's just kind of like a general, you know, editor and everything. But iMovie is a great starting place. If you're looking for more advanced softwares and stuff like that to really kind of jump in and be like, all right, this is my baseline as being like, you know, a professional creative or whatever, I would recommend either Premiere or Final Cut. DaVinci as well. I haven't personally used DaVinci, but I hear a lot of good things about it. Premiere and Final Cut, though, I have used. Final Cut I used when I was first starting out, and Premiere I just kind of transitioned into not too long ago. So a quick dive into the differences and the pros and cons between the two. Final Cut is a one-time payment, and then that's it. You own it, and all the updates for it, basically indefinitely and everything like that. So if you want to hop onto Apple's website, and if you can catch like a student discount or something, I think it's only like $200 or $300. So not too bad for like a one-time payment, and then everything else after that is free type option. But if you're a little bit more strapped for cash and you don't have that couple $100s for your startup and everything, Premiere is also a good option. Personally, if I had to pick between the two, I would recommend Premiere because it works on both Windows and Mac, and the startup cost for it is only $10 a month. So you can dive into, actually don't quote me on that, it might be like $20 a month, whatever it may be. It's very cheap, and it's just a very small payment and everything. But yeah, Premiere is something that in the long run I feel like is a better editing software to invest in and everything. So check that out, and we have some more information on that as well. I did make a Final Cut versus Premiere video on my YouTube, so Dani, if you would be so kind as to link that somewhere in the description, or put a link to that somewhere in the video so people can check that out, and so Katya can check that out as well. That should answer that question for you. Then diving into the next one, what compelled you to take serious actions towards your content creation? I feel like this is very deep. I don't know whether to dive into like my soul or like my psyche when I'm approaching this. I'm gonna let Dani tackle it first, and then I'm gonna see how I feel.
I feel like I'm a Taurus.
Okay.
And first and foremost, I'm stubborn.
Okay.
So I want to break the narrative of the starving artist, you know, especially for myself.
Okay.
Like for other people and for myself. And I just think it's more so that I love creating, and I feel like it flows naturally for me, but also I'm just so stubborn that I'm not going to stop creating, because I feel like I feel like this, you know, society that we live in doesn't necessarily put much value in creatives, but I think that there is so much value that we can add to the world, and I want to keep creating for myself, one, so that I can just be proud of what I'm making and also feel fulfilled, but also I feel like there's a lot of barriers to creating, just like, you know, our daily lives aren't structured to create, you know, but I just refuse to not create, and so I feel like just taking it with some stubbornness and making sure that I'm adding something back into the world, you know, whether for me to enjoy, for other people to enjoy.
Very cool. I feel pretty aligned with that. I guess what compels anyone to take serious action into what they create, or what it is that they do, or, you know, provide to the world and stuff, is that it's your passion. I've always liked photo and video stuff. Like even back to when I was a kid, I was like taking my dad's phone and like I would take videos on his like Sidekick and stuff like that. Or I'd like steal the laptop and just do like a bunch of crazy effects in like the photo booth thing on iMac, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's just what like captured my attention. Like that's just what I like to do. Then making that transition to seeing like, oh, there are professionals in this space. Professionals meaning people who make a living off of this, people who get paid to do what you love to do. I think that's like one of the main driving factors, is like you see your dream, you see your, you know, life source, I guess, for like lack of a better word, like the thing that makes you get up in the morning and makes you want to go, and it's right there, and people are getting paid to do it. They're getting the opportunity to support themselves off of it. They're getting the opportunity to make an impact on the world and all that stuff with it, and it's just cool, you know. So you want to be a part of that, and then obviously when you are a part of that, the thing that kind of pushes you even harder is you want your stuff to be good. You want to be the best version of yourself when you're doing that stuff. Anytime I'm delivering a project to a client, or I am, you know, taking on a new project, whether it's like a fun one or a paid one or whatever, I put so much energy and effort and just appreciation, I guess, into the process and all the little in-betweens and everything like that. Because again, it's a part of me, you know, I'm reflecting myself onto that, and it's just cool. It's really cool. So yeah, I think that's a good answer for that type of stuff, right? Yeah. She also says good mic recommendations. Okay, that's an easier one. I love how we went from,
through your soul.
I was about to say, went from like soul journey to what's a good mic for me? Okay, good microphones and everything like that. Well, I guess it just depends on what you're using the microphones for. If you are doing something like this, then there's a couple different options. Obviously, as you can see right here, I got this little box on me. This is a wireless lav microphone. They're real simple and easy because it allows you to move around freely. You don't have a bunch of wires or anything like that popping in here. And it just routes directly into the camera, so it's getting both of our audio, me and Dani. And it's clean, it's good, and pretty effective for what we need to do. Obviously, if you're not in the market to buy a wireless lav system, or if you're not necessarily in need of that particular type of audio, there's a number of different things that you can pick from. I have on top of my cameras some shotgun mics and everything. Shotgun mics are good for enhancing the natural audio that your camera picks up and giving you a kind of directional sound pickup as opposed to just like a splash sound pickup from the scratch mic inside your camera. There's also Zoom recorders and stuff, things that you can actually plug into soundboards and tap out and pull direct recordings from. That's a great way to get direct audio source recordings and everything like that for if you're recording for like a band or if you're doing weddings and you need like speech audio or anything like that. The possibilities are endless with a Zoom recorder, so that's always a good option.
What if you're doing like TikTok or like tarot readings or YouTube?
So if you're doing TikTok, tarot readings, YouTube videos, all that fun stuff, I guess if I had to pick a mic, I would probably recommend like a Rode Video Micro or something like that. And so we'll link that in there. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll have a little affiliate link in there, shameless plug. If not, then whatever, take it and just use it and stuff like that. But yeah, any type of mounted shotgun mic that's directional and can point towards you, because most times when you're doing this type of stuff, you're sitting in front of your phone or whatever you're recording and it's usually like facing you like this. So a microphone that just enhances it and points towards you is usually a little bit more beneficial. And then again, your other option would be a lav mic. So you could just plug it into your phone, you'd be good to go, and then take the other end, put it near your mouth and talk away, do whatever you need to do.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think that concludes for our episode. Some of this is going to be micro content that we'll chop up and just put on socials as it is. And then the rest of it will be what it's going to be on YouTube and everything. So thanks so much, Dani, for coming and everything like that. Obviously enjoyed having you here and enjoy having you on all the projects and all that fun stuff. Anything else you want to say to anybody?
No, this was funsies. Thanks for having me on.
Love that. Okay, so with that, we will bid you adieu. Again, thanks for watching and everything, guys. Whatever questions or anything that you guys may have, don't hesitate to reach out or shoot me a message. I'll be happy to answer them one-on-one, or if you have any ideas or topics that you'd like to see covered in the next episode, please reach out, let us know. Always open to suggestions on that type of material. But as I mentioned previously, we will bid you adieu. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.